Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome back to Grow English Mastery. My name is Scarlett, and it's wonderful to have you here with me today. Have you ever thought about treasure? Not the kind from pirate movies with old wooden chests, but real, national treasure. I'm talking about mountains of pure, solid gold that back the economy of a world superpower. Today, we are going on an adventure. We're going to unlock the secrets behind one of the most famous and secure vaults on the planet, the United States Bullion Depository at Fort Knox. But this isn't just a story about gold. It's a story about trust, transparency, and a high-stakes political debate that involves some of the most famous names in the world, including President Donald Trump and the tech billionaire Elon Musk. It's a story that is happening right now, and it asks a very simple but powerful question. Who is counting America's gold, and can we trust the count? So, get comfortable, because this is going to be a fascinating journey. Today's lesson is designed to do more than just tell you an interesting story. By the end of our 40 minutes together, you will have achieved 3 important goals. First, you will understand a major political and economic debate happening in the United States, involving its gold reserves. This will help you understand news headlines and conversations on a much deeper level. Second, and this is a big one for many English learners, we are going to master a very important piece of grammar, the passive voice. I know, the passive voice can seem confusing. Many students tell me they find it tricky, but I promise you, by the end of this lesson, the passive voice will be made simple for you. You will understand why it is used, especially in news and formal reports, and how to use it correctly. And third, we will power up your vocabulary with 10 new, powerful words related to politics, finance, and accountability. You'll not only learn their meaning, but you'll see them used in real-world examples from our story today. This lesson is your key to sounding more knowledgeable and confident when discussing serious topics in English. So, are you ready? Let's begin. To understand our story, we first need to talk about a legendary place, Fort Knox. The name itself sounds strong and secure, doesn't it? Fort Knox is officially known as the United States Bullion Depository. A depository is a place where things are stored for safekeeping, and bullion means precious metals like gold or silver in the form of bars. So, Fort Knox is where a huge amount of America's gold is stored. This famous fortress was built in 1936, right in the middle of a very difficult time in history known as the Great Depression. At that time, the U.S. economy was in deep trouble. To help fix it, the President, Franklin D. Roosevelt, made a controversial decision. A new law was passed, and American citizens were ordered to sell their private gold to the government. This gold was collected from banks and individuals all across the country, and all of that collected gold needed a home. A new home that was incredibly secure, almost impossible to break into. That home was Fort Knox. It was designed to be the ultimate safe house for the nation's wealth. For decades, the world has believed that this gold is sitting safely in its vault. It is a symbol of America's economic strength. But recently, a serious question has emerged, a question that is making a lot of people nervous. The question is all the gold really there? The problem is that a full and complete audit of the gold at Fort Knox has not been conducted for many, many decades. An audit is an official inspection of an organization's accounts, and in this case, an inspection of the physical gold. Imagine, you have a savings box. You trust that your money is inside. But what if you hadn't actually opened it and counted the money in over 70 years? Would you still be 100% sure everything was there? That's the situation with America's gold. This lack of a recent audit is causing a big problem. It's eroding trust. To erode means to slowly destroy or wear something away. And the lack of transparency is eroding people's trust in the US government and in the US dollar. This is happening at a time when the government is spending a lot of money and the national debt is growing. People are worried about the future, and they are starting to ask for proof. They want the government to open the vault and prove that the gold is safe. This growing concern has led to a major new development. Just last week, 4 members of the U.S. Congress introduced a new bill. A bill is a proposal for a new law. This bill is called the Gold Reserve Transparency Act. The name tells you exactly what it's about: making the country's gold reserves transparent. Transparency means being open, honest, and not hiding anything. This proposed law is demanding some very specific things. First, it calls for a full audit, inventory, and inspection of all the gold that is held by the United States. An inventory is a complete list of items, so they want a detailed list of every single gold bar. Second, the bill demands full transparency on all gold-related transactions over the last 50 years. A transaction is an instance of buying or selling something. They want to know if any gold has been bought, sold, loaned, or swapped. In simple terms, they want to see all the receipts. One of the congressmen supporting the bill, Thomas Massey, said something very powerful. He said, "The American people deserve transparency and accountability from the institutions that are supposed to be good stewards of our nation's money." Accountability means being responsible for your actions and being able to explain them. He is saying the government has a duty to be honest with its citizens. This call for an audit is not just coming from politicians. Experts in the private sector are also raising alarms. Stefan Gleason, the CEO of a company that runs a massive private gold depository, has expressed deep concern. He said that decades have passed since the last real audit. He even mentioned that records have been lost by the Treasury Department, and that vaults were mysteriously opened and resealed without new audits being done. He said these sloppy procedures would never be accepted in a private business. An audit is not a one-time job. It needs to be done regularly to maintain trust. The situation, he says, is alarming and completely unacceptable. Alarming means it is worrying or frightening. This is where our story gets even more interesting and connects to the wider world. The push for this new law is happening as countries and investors around the globe are starting to diversify away from the US dollar. To diversify means to add variety. Instead of putting all their trust in the dollar, they are buying gold. Gold is seen as a safe asset because it has no third-party risk. Its value doesn't depend on a government's promise. It's just pure, valuable. Metal J.P. Cortez, who leads an organization called the Sound Money Defense League, supports the audit bill. He hopes it will help restore faith in the US dollar. He points out that central banks around the world are reducing their holdings of US dollars and are actively trying to repatriate their own gold. To repatriate means to bring something back to its own country. For example, for many years, Germany stored a lot of its gold in the United States. But recently, German politicians have expressed concern and are pushing for that gold to be returned to Germany. This shows that even America's allies are becoming worried. J.P. Cortez says that protecting America's gold is a matter of national security, because gold is the ultimate form of money, recognized everywhere in the world. Now let's bring in the famous personalities, Elon Musk and Donald Trump. This entire debate about government efficiency and trust is a stage where their different philosophies clash. Before this new bill was introduced, Elon Musk had publicly stated that he wanted to audit the Fort Knox gold reserves himself. He suggested doing this on behalf of a new government department he proposed, called DOGE, which stands for the Department of Government Efficiency. Of course, no official plan was ever made, but his statement showed his deep interest in questioning official stories and demanding proof. It's a classic Musk move. See a problem and suggest a direct, bold, and unconventional solution. On the other hand, Donald Trump, as a former president, represents the system that is now being questioned. The lack of an audit is something that has continued under many presidents from both political parties. The conflict isn't a direct personal fight between them on this specific issue, but a clash of ideas. Musk represents the outsider, the disruptor, who wants to use technology and a business mindset to force transparency. Trump represents the political establishment, which is now under pressure to prove it is accountable to the people. So, we have a situation where a group of politicians is taking official action with a new law. We have experts warning about the serious risks, and we have the symbolic presence of two of the most powerful figures in America, representing two different approaches to solving the problem. The question at the heart of it all remains: who will count the gold, and what will they find? The answer could change the world's trust in America forever. This is a perfect moment to pause our story and dive into our main grammar topic for today, the passive voice. You may have noticed that I have been using it a lot while telling the A story. That was intentional. The passive voice is used constantly in news reports, official documents, and historical stories, exactly like the one we are discussing. So, what is the passive voice? Let's make it really simple. In most sentences, we use the active voice. The active voice focuses on the person or thing doing the action. For example, Congressman Massey sponsored the bill. The subject, Congressman Massey, is doing the action, sponsoring. The passive voice flips this around. It focuses on the person or thing that receives the action. The person who did the action becomes less important or is not mentioned at all. So, the active sentence, Congressman Massey sponsored the bill, becomes, the bill was sponsored by Congressman Massey. Do you see the change? The bill, which received the action, is now the subject of the sentence. The structure is subject, followed by a form of the verb to be, like is, are, was, were, has been, followed by the past participle of the main verb. The past participle is the third form of a verb, like spoken, written, or, in our example, sponsored. Why do we use the passive voice? There are a few key reasons. First, we use it when we don't know who did the action. For example, my car was stolen. We don't know who stole it. Second, we use it when it's not important who did the action. The action itself is the important part. For example, the law was passed last year. The important fact is that the law is now active, not necessarily every single person who voted for it. Third, and this is very relevant to our story, we use it in formal, objective, and scientific writing. It sounds more official and less personal. When you read a news headline like, "A new bill has been introduced," it sounds more formal than saying, "Some congressman introduced a new bill." It focuses your attention on the bill, which is the main subject of the news. Let's look at some examples from our story. Active. President Roosevelt built Fort Knox in 1936. Passive. Fort Knox was built in 1936. This is better for a history lesson because the focus is on Fort Knox, the famous place, not just the person who ordered its construction. Active. The Treasury Department has lost important records. Passive. Important records have been lost by the Treasury Department, or even more likely in a news report. Important records have been lost. The focus is on the problem, the lost records. Active. People need an audit to restore trust. Passive. An audit is needed to restore trust. This makes it sound like a general objective truth rather than just a personal opinion. The passive voice is your friend when you want to sound more formal and academic. It is a key part of reaching a higher level of English proficiency. We will look at more examples later, but for now, I want to give you some practical ways to practice what you've just learned. Learning is not just about listening to me talk. It's about you taking action. So here are some techniques you can use this week to practice both the story and the grammar we are learning today. First, for your listening skills, I want you to actively listen for the passive voice. When you watch the news in English, perhaps on BBC News, CNN, or Voice of America, pay close attention. How many times do you hear sentences where something was done or has been decided? Keep a small notebook and try to write down 3 examples you hear each day. This will train your ear to recognize it instantly. Second, for your reading skills, find an online news article about our topic today. Just search for Gold Reserve. Transparency Act. Read the article slowly. With a highlighter or just by copying sentences, identify every sentence that uses the passive voice. Then, try to change it back to the active voice. This exercise will deeply improve your understanding of the sentence structure. Third, for your speaking skills. This one might feel a little challenging, but it's so effective. Try to summarize the story of Fort Knox and the audit bill to a friend, or just to yourself in the mirror. Your challenge is to use the passive voice at least 5 times. You could say things like, Fort Knox was built to protect America's gold. For a long time, an audit has not been done. Now, a new bill has been introduced. It is hoped that transparency will be restored. Finally, for your writing skills. Write a short paragraph, maybe 100 words, about a famous building or landmark in your own country. Describe when it was built, who it was designed by, and what it is used for today. Your goal is to use the passive voice to make your writing sound like an official guidebook. This is excellent practice for formal writing. Remember, practice is the bridge between knowing and doing. Choose one or two of these techniques and try them this week. Now that we've covered the story and some practice techniques, it's time to zoom in on some of the most important words from our lesson. Building a strong vocabulary is like giving yourself superpowers in a new language. These 10 words will help you discuss today's topic with much more precision. Our first word is audit. That's spelled A-U-D-I-T, audit. An audit is an official examination of an organization's financial records to check that they are accurate. In our story, it also means a physical check of the gold itself. For example, the new bill calls for a complete audit of the US gold. Reserves. A regular audit is necessary to prevent fraud. Our second word is reserve, spelled R-E-S-E-R-V-E, reserve. A reserve is a supply of something that is available to be used if it is needed. We often talk about gold reserves, oil reserves, or cash reserves. For example, the country's gold reserve is stored at Fort Knox. It is important for a central bank to have strong foreign currency reserves. Our third word is transparency. This is a longer one, spelled T-R-A-N-S-P-A-R-E-N-C-Y, transparency. Transparency is the quality of being easy to perceive or detect. In this context, it means being open and honest, without secrets. For example, the congressmen are demanding more transparency from the Treasury Department. Transparency in government is essential for a healthy democracy. Next, we have legislation. Spelled L-E-G-I-S-L-A-T-I-O-N, legislation. Legislation is a law or a set of laws that have been passed by a parliament or Congress. The word bill refers to proposed legislation. Once it is passed, it becomes legislation. For example, the Gold Reserve Transparency Act is a piece of proposed legislation. New legislation was introduced to protect the environment. Our fifth word is accountability. Let's spell that out. A-C-C-O-U-N-T-A-B-I-L-I-T-Y, accountability. Accountability means being responsible for your actions and being able to explain them. For example, the bill is designed to increase government accountability. The CEO took full accountability for the company's failure. Number 6 is depository. Spelled D-E-P-O-S-I-T-O-R-Y, depository. A depository is a place where things, especially valuables, are stored for safekeeping. For example, Fort Knox is the official U.S. bullion depository. The company operates a private depository for gold and silver. Our seventh word is alarming. That's A-L-A-R-M-I-N-G, alarming. Alarming means worrying or disturbing. It describes a situation that makes you feel frightened or concerned. For example, the expert said the lack of audits was alarming. The rapid decline in the bird population is alarming. Next up, diversify. Spelled diversify. Diversify. To diversify means to start to produce a wider range of products or services, or in finance, to invest in a wider range of things to reduce risk. For example, investors are advised to diversify their portfolios away from just stocks. Many countries are trying to diversify their economies and not just rely on oil. Our ninth word is repatriate, spelled R-E-P-A-T-R-I-A-T-E, repatriate. To repatriate means to send or bring something or someone back to their own country. For example, Germany is taking steps to repatriate its gold reserves from the United States. After the war, many refugees were repatriated, and our 10th and final word is ultimate. That's U-L-T-I-M-A-T-E, ultimate. Ultimate means being the best or most extreme example of its kind. It can also mean final or fundamental. For example, J.P. Cortez called gold the ultimate form of money. Her ultimate goal is to become a doctor. There you have it. 10 powerful words. Try to use one or two of them this week in your writing or speaking practice. Now that we've powered up our vocabulary, let's move on to the next section and review our grammar point with even more detail. We're going to look at more specific examples of the passive voice right from our story. Seeing it in context is the best way to make it stick in your mind. Let's look closer at the passive voice in our story. We can organize our examples into a few categories. First, let's talk about the bill, the Gold Reserve Transparency Act. Notice how these sentences focus on the bill itself. The bill has been introduced in Congress. It was sponsored by 4 representatives. If the bill is passed, a full audit will be conducted. Here, the focus is on the bill and its journey, not just the people behind it. Second, let's talk about the gold. The gold is the object of everyone's attention, so the passive voice is perfect for describing it. A large amount of gold is stored at Fort Knox. It is believed that the gold has not been audited for decades. Concerns have been expressed that some gold may have been sold or leased. In these sentences, the gold is the subject. We are describing what is done to it or what is thought about it. Third, let's talk about the need for action and public opinion. The passive voice is great for expressing general beliefs or official needs. It is said that trust in the dollar is being eroded. An audit is needed to restore public confidence. The American people deserve to be told the truth about their assets. Using "it is said" or "it is believed" is a very common way to report a general opinion without naming a specific source. It's a very useful structure for formal essays and discussions. Let's try a quick exercise together. I will give you an active sentence, and I want you to try to change it into the passive voice. Ready? Active sentence. Elon Musk proposed the Department of Government Efficiency. Think about it. The object is the Department of Government Efficiency. The passive sentence would be, the Department of Government Efficiency was proposed by Elon Musk. Excellent. Let's try one more. Active sentence. The government must protect the nation's assets. The object is the nation's assets. The passive sentence would be, The nation's assets must be protected by the government. Or even more simply, the nation's assets must be protected. You see? The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. The passive voice isn't scary. It's just a different way of looking at a sentence. It's a tool, and today, you have learned how to use it. Now, I want to share a short, inspirational story with you. It connects to our theme today: transparency and accountability. The story of the Gold Reserve Transparency Act is about a country wanting to look inside its own treasure chest, to be honest with itself and the world. This idea of a self-audit, of being transparent and accountable, is not just important for governments. It's incredibly important for us as individuals, especially as language learners. Think about your English learning journey as your own personal Fort Knox. Inside you have treasures, the vocabulary you know, the grammar you've mastered, your listening skills, your confidence. But sometimes we are afraid to do an honest audit of our skills. We are afraid to open the vault and see what's really inside. Maybe we are afraid to discover that our grammar is not as strong as we thought, or that we are missing some vocabulary. But just like the experts in our story said, an audit is not a one-time thing, and it's not something to be feared. An honest audit of your English skills is the most powerful step you can take towards real improvement. It means being brave enough to say, I am not good at the passive voice yet, or I need to practice my pronunciation of this word. That admission is not a failure. It is the beginning of a plan. It is transparency. When you are honest about your weaknesses, you can start to fix them. You can seek help. You can find the right lessons. You can practice with purpose. The congressmen in our story are asking for an audit because they want to build a stronger, more trustworthy foundation for their country's future. I encourage you to do the same for your English. Be your own auditor. Be brave, be honest, and be accountable to your own goals. Don't hide from your mistakes. Shine a light on them, because that is where the real learning happens. That is how you build a foundation of English skills that is as strong and as valuable as solid gold. We have covered so much ground today. We've traveled to Fort Knox. We've explored a major political debate. We've mastered the passive voice. And we've learned 10 new words. It's time to bring it all together. So, what are our key takeaways from this lesson? First, we learned about the important and ongoing debate over auditing the US gold reserves. We learned about the Gold Reserve Transparency Act and why transparency and accountability are so important for a government and its currency. Second, we took a deep dive into the passive voice. We learned that the passive voice is formed with the verb to be and a past participle. And we learned that it is used to focus on the receiver of an action, especially in formal, official, and news contexts. It is a key tool for higher-level English. And third, we have added 10 fantastic words to our vocabulary: audit, reserve, transparency, legislation, accountability, depository, alarming, diversify, repatriate, and ultimate. These words will allow you to discuss complex topics with more confidence. Before we finish, I want to leave you with a final message of encouragement. Learning a language is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be days when you feel like you are not making progress. There will be grammar points that seem impossible to understand at first. There will be times when you are afraid to speak because you might make a mistake. Please, remember this. Every single mistake is a learning opportunity. It is a sign that you are trying, that you are pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And that is the only place where growth happens. Be persistent, be patient with yourself, and most importantly, be confident. Trust in your ability to learn and improve. You are capable of so much more than you think. Thank you so much for joining me today at Grow English Mastery. Your time and your effort are valuable. I hope this lesson was found to be helpful and interesting for you. Now, I would love to hear from you. What do you think about the story? Should the US Gold be audited? What is your opinion? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. I read every single one. And if you enjoyed this lesson and want more deep dives into fascinating topics like this one, please show your support by hitting the like button, sharing this video with a friend who is also learning English, and of course, subscribing to Grow English Mastery so you don't miss our next lesson. Until then, keep practicing, stay curious, and be proud of your progress. I'm Scarlett, and I can't wait to see you again next time. Goodbye for now.